as far as news goes, you were talking about playing through Mass Effect 2. We have some Mass Effect Andromeda news. Me and you have both been kind of media blackout, Jordan, on this. They've been releasing gameplay videos and a ton of stuff, which I'm cool for people who are excited for that stuff. I already know I'm going to love Mass Effect, so I don't want everything spoiled for me. But I saw this roll up in my sub box. It was a 1.5-minute video. I wanted to watch it because Natalie Dormer is going to be in Mass Effect Andromeda, and this is huge.
Woo!
If you're not familiar, the Mass Effect trilogy had some big actors in it. They had some prominent voice actors too. And so far for Andromeda on the IMDb and stuff, we've only known about prominent voice actors. We haven't known about any actors from other mediums coming in and being in this game, which is kind of huge for Mass Effect because it's kind of one of their things. And not only did we get the announcement that Natalie Dormer's in the game, she's going to be playing an Asari. I'm not going to get too much into her character because I don't want to spoil it for you. Gethin Anthony, who played Renly Baratheon in Game of Thrones, is also going to be in the game. They didn't talk about what his character is or who he is, but during the video, Natalie Dormer says it was funny talking to Gethin because it was them, them two outside of Game of Thrones having a discussion, which was pretty funny as well. I don't want to spoil it either, but in the video, she has a line that references Game of Thrones, which is hilarious. So it's a nice little subtle hint in there when you play the game.
She's my cherry pie, cold drink of water, such a sweet surprise. I am so excited about this.
She's definitely just super gorgeous, but I also think she's an underrated actress too. I don't think she's crazy, but I think she's a really solid actress, and it's awesome to hear her. I love her voice. And yeah, this is exciting news because I was wondering who the big name was going to be. You know, the original Mass Effect trilogy had like Seth Green and a couple of other people. So I was like,
don't say weird. His name.
Seth Green. So that's pretty much it for that news. The second bit of news here is pretty big as well. Irrational Games has a new name. So
Irrational Games still exist is the news.
Yeah, right. So basically, this is their official. They tweeted on the Irrational Games Twitter, and they said, "We have a new name now. We're Ghost Story Games. Read our blog talking about it." So I'm going to read that to you guys real quick. Challenging stories, challenging gameplay. Ghost Story was founded by 12 former Irrational game developers, and our mission is simple: to create immersive, story-driven games for people who love games that ask something of them. While we believe our new games will have strong appeal to fans of BioShock, our new focus allows us to craft experiences where the gameplay is as challenging as the stories are. We are not yet ready to share any more on our new game, but we invite you to join us and take part in our community. And obviously you can sign up for their newsletter and stuff like that. This is really interesting because, Irrational has been known to make some really solid games. Part of the Irrational team went and is now on a team working on the game Perception, which a lot of people are probably familiar with. A lot of the other people kind of stayed around that were a core team of Irrational, and now they are Ghost Story Games. I think this is huge.
Part of the team founded the Molasses Flood, as we talked about recently.
Yeah, so like a lot of the Irrational guys have gone around and done some fantastic stuff so far. So
yeah,
it's interesting. This is like the core, but everyone from that team is super talented, as evident by everything that they've been doing. Perception looks amazing. What is the full name of that? Flame in the Flood? Is that the name of the game that they made? Flood. Yeah, that game looks really cool too. I haven't had a chance to play it, but obviously we've talked about it, and the game looks phenomenal. So I'm interested to see what they do. This is an interesting title for a game developer, Ghost Story Games. I wonder if this lends towards them wanting to create more eerie BioShocky games.
I hope so.
Of a ghost story, you think of horror stories, right, or things that make you uncomfortable. So I'm interested to see what exactly their thing is there. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Irrational now becoming Ghost Story Games.
I think they're playing you. I think they're making Ghost Story Games. That's too obvious, right? I think they're going to make like a kart racer that's really fun and colorful, or something that is not a ghost story in any sense of the imagination. They're playing you.
Because that's what we want the BioShock developers to do. We want them to make a kart racer. That's what we need most from them. Yeah.
I'm just glad to hear that they're still around and doing something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was very much unclear what happened to that studio when things went down after BioShock Infinite came out. It wasn't clear if they were going to continue on as Irrational or change in some capacity or what, but I'm glad to hear that they are back. The name is decent. Ghost Story Games is cool. I do hope that it lends to what they're going to be dealing with and the types of games they're going to be making, because I think that's what Ken Levine does best, and he's going to be in charge of that studio. So it seems like he wanted to do something more intimate, and he was talking about doing more story driven. Almost kind of sounded like walking simulators, maybe, but maybe it's not at all. So very excited to see what happens here, because Irrational was one of my favorite studios, being the developers of both BioShock and BioShock Infinite. So I think it's about time they should be showing off the game and not just renaming the studio, because it's been quite some time since BioShock was released in 2013, and that happened immediately afterwards. So I'd really like to see some of this game, but I'm sure we'll see something later on this year.
Oh baby, if we get Ken Levine coming out on stage for either PlayStation or Microsoft, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I feel like this is gonna be small budget stuff.
Yeah, I agree. But who knows if they sign a deal with somebody or something like.
True.
There's very few developers that like when their lead walks on stage, I like super pay attention. Like the Todd Howards or stuff like that. What's the guy that works at Sony Santa Monica? Cory Barlog, is that his name?
Yes.
Did I nail that?
Yeah. Actually said his name right, which no one's good at, and you're not usually good with names, so double whammy.
Exactly. There's very few people that when they come out on stage, I super pay attention to, and like Ken Levine's one of the people in the industry like when he talks, you listen. So I would love to see him at E3. We might not, but it's cool to see the the future of Irrational Games. Speaking of what Irrational Games is going to be doing now with Ghost Story Games, let's talk about a console that their game will probably not come to. So the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch will not have Virtual Console at launch. This is reported by Jason Schreier over at Kotaku.com. That's pretty much it. The headline speaks for itself. The interesting thing here is that the guys who, I'll read this to you, Virtual Console games will not be available on Nintendo Switch at launch, the company said in a press release. We'll share more information in the future. In the same press release, Nintendo added that Fast RMX and Shovel Knight will be coming on launch date, March 3rd. And they also basically, Jason Schreier goes on to say, it's disappointing news for anyone who hoped that Nintendo's impressive slate of classics games might fill up the blanks between big Switch releases like Zelda and Mario, Super Mario Odyssey. Given the lack of details so far on the Virtual Console and given Nintendo's history, it's fair to expect the worst despite our brief optimism. There was another thing people were talking about that I guess the guys who are working on Virtual Console for the Nintendo Switch are the guys who worked on the NES Classic. And people love the way that those games are able to be played through the NES Classic. And this gives a lot of people optimism as to how well the games will run on Virtual Console on the new system. There's some weird wording, too, where they went and Nintendo talked about how with Virtual Console on the Switch, you're going to be able to pay for upgraded versions of old games you own for a lower price and stuff like that. Obviously, the GameCube games. The fact that like now your games are going to be tied to your account is really huge for Nintendo. I think it's a really awesome thing. But for that news to come out and then immediately this news to come out about Virtual Console not being at launch, that's huge. The biggest thing, this is a side argument, but like the biggest thing with Project Scorpio is that no matter what its launch lineup is, it's backwards compatible and you'll have all of your Xbox One library, right?
Yeah.
The problem with the Nintendo Switch coming out is like, yeah, Zelda's awesome, don't get me wrong. But the one of the things that you could do to combat the argument that there's nothing for Switch at launch is like, we have a Virtual Console, play all of our old games you already love. They don't even have that, which is tough,
Seriously, Dom, what the hell are you going to do with this hunk of junk after you finish Zelda?
Well, I mean, this particular, so my take on this is, yeah, it's obviously not good. It would be better if they had this at launch, but we know it's coming.
I think they desperately need it.
Yeah, it would help, but for me, it's like wasn't gonna buy it. The only thing I'm wanting to buy on the Virtual Console is GameCube games, right? Because I've already bought all the Virtual Console games I'm gonna buy on my 3DS. So this isn't a huge deal to me. But your question is still important because after Zelda, we'll see. Maybe Dragon Quest or I Am Setsuna, but that's not. There will be a gap, so to speak, mid this year on that console for me until Mario comes out. But I'm sure me and Emily will play Mario Kart a lot in that gap. But
Dom, real quick, to clarify. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is even if they came out and said Virtual Console is available but GameCube Virtual Console won't be available. This is the same thing to you, right? It wouldn't matter either way because the only thing that matters to you is the GameCube thing. So if they came out and said Virtual Console's available, but the GameCube stuff isn't yet, it still wouldn't matter to you. It's to be like that, that's not important to me. So
everyone who is complaining about this and wants this, I guess, they either bought the NES Classic or they've already bought a bunch of Virtual Console games on their Wii and or their 3DS. So they would have complained about having to buy their games again on Switch, assuming that's the approach Nintendo takes.
Well, it would have been a valid complaint.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But you've already bought these games 5 times, so I wouldn't get too upset that you'd have to wait a couple more months, hopefully not longer, to buy them for a 6th time, right? I don't think it's a huge deal. It's not a good thing though, and it's just another thing that, whether it's a big deal or not, the optics of it are bad, right? It could be perfectly acceptable and excusable, but if everyone says it's bad, then that means it's bad, regardless of the truth of it.
Well, it's just bad because that was really going, in my mind, I was thinking, well, at least, you, Dom, or just people that are getting the Switch, at least they'll have, these fun-sized Snickers to munch on in between their meals, Mm-hmm. And that's not even going to be there because the meals are already going to be few and far between, and so you kind of need those snacks. But it's just I'm worried, man. I'm just getting more and more worried about this Switch, man.
I don't think anyone, this is going to be their only primary console, so I don't see it as a huge deal that there's a softer lineup, because even the Wii,
that's what it needs to be, Dom. I think it needs to be a console that could be someone's primary.
I don't know, because I just look back to the Wii having such huge success, and it was, I doubt it was many people's primary console, and if it was, they played Wii Sports and then never turned it back on.
They never really played a lot of games to begin with, yeah.
Right, but the people who played a lot of games on Wii also had a 360 or a PS3. I would guess the majority.
So, the weird thing to me is that if I was running Nintendo, it'd be so hard for me to launch with Mario over Zelda. Not that it's a better game or anything, but Mario sells better than Zelda does, right? It's kind of statistically, that's well known. To me, it seems like the more and more we hear about this, of like Virtual Console not being ready and all of this stuff, it seems like instead of the Switch coming out this fall, they had to release it earlier so that way they wouldn't have to either delay Zelda or make it so Zelda comes out for Wii U and then later comes out for Switch, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? That's what it seems like. It seems like they didn't want to delay Zelda again because people would be pissed. Because it really, as we hear about this more and more, it seems like the Switch was more prompted to like come out this fall, with everything that we're hearing about like Mario not coming till this fall and Virtual Console not happening right away. It's like
makes a lot of sense.
It seemed like they had us be like, oh no, we have to release the Switch when Zelda comes out, and then we're just gonna have to take a bullet for it because we don't want to have it come out on Wii U and then not have to be able to have people justify the purchase of it on the Switch. So it's weird to me as this stuff is happening. But yeah, like you said, whether it's as bad as we think it is, it looks bad. So that's
right.
Yeah, that's all that matters really.
And the bad things, frankly, are piling up at this point.
Exactly.
So, I guess, and I'm not trying to make this sound more dire than it is, but when you buy this console on day one, you're going to have Zelda, and that's going to be your only game that you own for it until probably Mario Kart?
Yeah, Mario Kart is sometime in April.
The thing is that I think they have some really cool launch lineup titles, but it's all about if you're interested in them. For me, so say for instance, I pre-ordered a Switch and I got Zelda, right? Having Shovel Knight is awesome too, but I've already beat Shovel Knight. So what people are you selling Shovel Knight to that haven't already played it? But it's new DLC, so that's a reason to buy it. But it's like Zelda is the only experience that is like quote unquote mainstream enough, even though Zelda's not even really that mainstream. ARMS seems like a really cool game, but that's not going to move units. A lot of people aren't going to be interested in that. 1-2 Switch, as we've said 100 times, that should be a pack-in game. I think that's a fun experience to have to show people what the Switch can do. People aren't going to pay $40 for it or whatever they marked it down to. It was originally quoted as 60, and then they're like, no, it's not 60 because we realize you guys hate that. But yeah, like it's weird because you're gonna beat Zelda, Dom, and then you're going to keep it on the shelf, and it's going to collect dust, and then Mario Kart comes out, and you're going to play that a bunch, and then once you guys get burned down, now it's going to go back on the shelf. Oh, and then Mario came out, which is fine for you, because you've already...
That's what I want out of it.
Exactly. But that's not what everybody wants, so it's going to be weird to see how that works out, yeah.
It is
I
portable
think
though, so that's the kicker. So that's why it won't get as much dust settling on it because it fills a need that there's not much more on the Vita and 3DS I want to play, right? And I have way more time to commit to a portable system than an at-home one, right? So that'll be what I go to, even if it's playing more Mario Kart and playing through Zelda a second or third time. It's more that's when I can't play the PS4, that's when they
Also,
get used, right?
if you buy the season pass, you can play through it a second time in your Switch shirt.
That's true, yeah.
I
Or
think
in reality in the hard mode, but yeah, I like what you did there.
I think for people like us, Dom, that are more hardcore gamers, I guess I'll probably personally end up getting one later on this summer, maybe early fall before Mario comes out. But really, it's $300 for someone who spends a decent amount of their money on video games. That's not terrible. That's not too bad. And you do have to factor in the cost of the skyrocketing accessories and the fucking storage that you're gonna have to buy. With SD cards and all that. But the starting price is not terrible, and so. Even if I did wait until, I don't know, August and got the system with Mario Kart and maybe Smash if it had come out and Zelda, and then I was waiting for Mario, I'd probably still be okay with it because it's not a $500 system that I'm, banking on being able to play these huge AAA games on.
Yeah. I think Nintendo has an interesting battle to play, and we'll see. But we had to strike another negative in the sheet of all the positives and negatives. We had to write another negative down. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, everyone's excited for Zelda. Everyone's getting their Switches early, which I've seen a bunch of unboxings and stuff like that. So it seems like people are excited about it. It seems like a good piece of hardware. They just need to be able to back it up with software that people care about reliably for a decent amount of time.